So you found the skeleton. How would you tell people that? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
All right, everybody, we are here with Kent with Bent 39, Kenthold, and I know a few people have already gotten that reference, but some people haven't, and it was actually, people got it really quick, like around 7 or 8 a.m., someone popped in and said, oh no, Threshold. Threshold, of course, is the classic, one of the best episodes of Star Trek Voyager ever. It is amazing. And if you have Netflix, or I guess CBS All Access, because apparently that's something that some people have, you should check out Threshold, Star Trek Voyager episode. It's
and I'm watching it on Amazon Prime right now.
Oh, is it on Amazon Prime too?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
In Arizona.
Yeah, so there you go. That is what that was. That was a reference to Star Trek Voyager episode Threshold. What season episode is that? You know?
It's season 3, I think, 2 or 3.
Okay. Well, there you go. I'll just say this. It's got an understanding of evolution that is only slightly better than Kent Hovind's understanding of evolution. Would you agree with that there, Bent?
It's slightly more entertaining as well.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes, it's...
only slightly better than Kent Hovind.
They put the fiction in science fiction.
Yes. Anyway, so welcome everybody. Yeah, I don't know, I've just been sort of a Star Trek mood lately. Like, I just learned this week that dolphins are a part of Starfleet, and that's an official, like, alpha canon thing. Like, that's not a thing from some book somewhere. No, like, that's a real thing. For reals.
And he won't stop texting about it.
I will stop texting about it. I've only texted about it, like, 3 times.
Very excited.
It's cool. I'm gonna put dolphins.
It is cool.
Dolphins are in Star Trek, or Starfleet, guys. That's cool. Anyway, this is not a show about dolphins or Star Trek, except tangentially. This is a show about making fun of Kent Hovind while we drink. So let's go over the drinking rules. So, first of all, we drink whenever Kent Hovind unironically gets something right. And he can't be quoting someone else. So a direct quote doesn't count. If he gets something right on his own, we drink. We also drink whenever it's just so stupid that we kind of have to. We also drink whenever Kent tells a really lame joke that we just don't even laugh at. Like, usually it's like, oh wait, that was a joke. Then we have to go back and like, yeah, it was a joke, and we drink. But we also insert a little bit of randomness into here by drinking whenever we get a visit from some of the kaiju, such as, there you go, Godzilla. Occasionally, Mothra will also come around. And we have a couple super chat drink things related to that. If in fact, oh, speaking of Mothra, there she is. Take a drink from Mothra. Also, if someone super chats who has Mothra in their name, or Godzilla, or one of the other kaiju, we'll drink for that. As well as, if you are a channel member, which you can join down below this video, starting at $1.99 a month, I believe, you gain access to the channel emojis, which include some kaiju. If you super chat one of those, we drink for that too. So there you go. Those are the drink numbers. Now, I recognize some of you may be not watching this now because you're watching two completely incoherent people whose chances of forming a sentence that makes sense is about the same as a dolphin learning an Irish jig. But instead, we're here to have only one incoherent nincompoop jabber on incoherently, while 2 people who are generally coherent comment on it. So I consider this the superior programming to whatever political events might be taking place in the United States right now.
Yeah.
Plus, if we're being honest, I mean, let's be fair. Almost everyone already knows who they're going to vote for at this point. I feel like there are very few undecided people right now. Maybe I'm wrong. I haven't double-checked the polls to see how many people are unsure.
I have a coworker who's 25 and doesn't know anything about politics. And I had referred her to isidewith.com, and she took a quiz very thoroughly and figured out who she likes. But she's a voting age and doesn't even know. She's like, yeah, I thought I was a Democrat. I was like, well, yeah. I mean,
maybe you are,
but like, she didn't even know for sure until she took the quiz. So
well, hey, there you go.
I don't think she voted last time. so she's going to be a first-time voter.
Well, I feel like this time is going to end up like last time did for me, which in case people don't know, Election Night 2016 is the only time I've ever blacked out, and it's the only. I also did it intentionally because it was a night I didn't want to remember. Because no matter what happened, I wasn't going to be happy about it. Election 2020 might feel the same way. I don't know, but let's not talk about that. That's terrible. Let's get some Kenthold in here. That's what we're actually here for, right? Oh, hey! Yeah. So we got a lot of people here. We got we're up to 21. We're actually doing pretty well for the beginning of the show. We got Aztec Dragon, Andrew Cumming, Random Evo Times is here, German Furman, Maya's here, Miguel is here, Vesta's here. All right, awesome. Well, I hope you guys enjoy the show, but here we go. Now, before we left off, Kent Hovind was blathering on about the 100-year anniversary edition of Origin of the Species, and apparently the guy who wrote the foreword was like, "Oh, evolution is in opposition to Christianity," and I'm just like, okay, I don't care what the author of the foreword of the 100-year anniversary edition said. Like, whatever. I just don't care. So I skipped it. I legitimately skipped it. This is after, but like just after.
4 great questions of life, and the way you answer those questions is determined by your worldview. Now, at this point, I go back into the 4 questions. Who am I? And what am I worth? Then I say, now, if evolution is true, if this theory is true, what are we worth anyway?
Okay, so here's my first statement here. Worth is a thing that depends on subjective valuation, right? Like, if you get into things like economics, right, which is the place where worth or value really comes into play, like what's a dollar worth, what is an apple worth, right? This is something that people decide collectively, and then simply because of their collective evaluation of the worth of various objects, they gain value on the market. So, for instance, overall, say the price of a hammer, which I don't remember last time I bought a hammer. How much does a hammer cost? I'm just going to go with a cucumber, because I paid 99 cents. I paid 99 cents for a cucumber. There you go. We'll just go with that, right? I was just at the grocery store. I bought 2 cucumbers. It cost me $1.98. There we go. That was yesterday. So, this is the result of everyone who could buy cucumbers, who does buy cucumbers, and who, in fact, does not, but buys other things when they could have bought cucumbers if they were cheaper, all collectively deciding about how much they would be willing to pay for a cucumber, and then a market coming to an equilibrium price where they say, at least around here where I live, in Arizona, saying that, okay, people around here are willing to pay 99 cents for a cucumber, and there you go. But the same thing is true for, say, like human life, right? As a society, Western culture has broadly decided that human life is pretty darn valuable, and that is why it is like illegal to end it without just cause. That's why, you know, we consider things like genocide or mass murder or serial murder really bad things, the worst crimes you can commit, things like that. You don't need God to get you there, although it might help. So if evolution is true, it tells us nothing about the value or worth of a human life. I just want to get that out there. And I'm going to go ahead and bet that Kent is going to go say something that makes me want to drink, so I have my drink handy right now.
Nothing.
Oh,
We're a bunch of chemicals, right?
Yep, okay, that was stupid, and I'll take a drink. Because, as it turns out, not all bunches of chemicals were created equal. And even if it is true that all a human is a bunch of chemicals, which from a physical standpoint, that is technically true, right? Like, humans can be broken down as a bunch of chemicals if you want to go the reductionist route. But still, because value is derived from how humans perceive things, and the value they place on it, humans are worth a lot, according to most humans. There you go. Doesn't matter if evolution is true or not. Humans are still worth a lot, either way. So, back to Kent.
That's all we are, is a bunch of chemicals that got together by chance.
I'm going to drink again because it wasn't by chance. Selection has a role there, and selection is non-chance, but we'll just keep going. Oh, Miguel has asked, what is my drink? So I guess we will go on there. So Mind Drink is an extremely inexpensive lemon lime soda with an extremely inexpensive silver rum.
Mind Drink is Watermelon Wonder.
There you go. That was blurry.
Focus.
Yeah, it's probably not going to. And
I don't.
is thou enjoying thine drink?
So, it doesn't really smell like watermelon.
Does it taste like water? Or does it taste like artificial watermelon?
Kind of tastes like watermelon. There it is in the aftertaste.
Oh, hey, Vandalia
For a
1998
while,
show.
I was wondering
Oh.
where the watermelon came in. That's why they call it Watermelon Wonder.
There you go. All right. We'll get some Kent up here. All right, so Kent has already given a stupid answer to the first question.
You're nothing but a piece of protoplasm that washed up on the beach one day.
No.
To make...
Wait, was that a joke?
I don't think so.
It was either a joke or was stupid enough to drink to.
I think it was stupid enough to drink to, but I don't think it was a joke.
Okay. Yeah, that was just really, really dumb. And here's the thing, right? Protoplasm isn't alive, so humans aren't just a bunch of protoplasm. I never washed up on the beach one day, but I'm not a human, so maybe you did, Bent. Did you just wash up on the beach one day? Okay.
I have no memory of that.
Tell you what, if you washed up on the beach one day, put 1 in the chat. If you didn't, just don't put anything, because I'll just assume most of you didn't wash up on the beach one day.
it worse, you're part of the problem.
Oh no!
Because you are one of the polluters of the environment. Now think about it. If evolution is true, then the way it's supposed to work is a species is supposed to get up to a certain population level, and if there are weak ones or inferior ones, they should be killed off. And the reason we got these folks going around trying to thin down the population...
Okay, hold up. Alright, Bent, you and I both accept evolution as being the only and most accurate theory of biodiversity on Earth.
Sure.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume that the vast majority of my audience does here, too. I'm not a eugenicist. Are you?
I don't think so.
Tell you what, once again, in the audience, put a 1 in the chat if you happen to be a eugenicist. Be warned, I might end up hiding you permanently, because I don't want eugenicists watching. Because it's not okay. Like, there's a handful of prescribed opinions on my channel, and I don't make it explicit which ones they are, but there's a list. Eugenics is one of them. So, yeah, no, accepting evolution does not mean eugenics, nor does it mean overall population reduction. Are you currently trying to thin the herd, Bent?
I don't think so.
No. The only...
This herd up here is thin a bit, but that's about it.
The only population reduction method that I'm okay with is increased education about contraception and development of, you know, sustainable economies to the point that people don't feel like they have to have 17 kids so that they can survive their old age. Yeah, that's it. And both of those things would actually lower the population overall, and we'd probably reach an equilibrium. But yeah. There you go. What is a eugenicist? Asks Miguel Francesco Ogar. So, eugenics is the idea that humanity should try to essentially artificially breed itself. So certain people should be excluded from the gene pool because of their quote-unquote undesirable traits, whether by sterilization or by murder. Usually it starts with sterilization, but it usually doesn't end there. It usually ends with mass murder. Yeah. And the idea is to essentially become the, you know, breed humanity to be the best it can be through artificial selection, basically. So it's a really, really bad idea, and it has led to some extremely poor decisions. It was popular even in the United States in the 30s and 40s, but it lost a lot of its popularity after World War II for what I think are probably obvious reasons. Yeah. So we'll get some more Kent in.
Or wipe out, you know, a genocide. You know, my race is better than your race, so I'm going to kill all of you. is because of this evolution thinking. Because if evolution is true, honestly, folks, we aren't worth a thing.
No.
There is no value to human life.
Already covered it.
And you get people who believe that, like Joseph Stalin, leader of Russia, who killed 6.
All right, we're going to drink real quick because Joseph Stalin wasn't an ardent anti-evolutionist. Stalin thought that evolution was an excuse that the bourgeoisie had used to oppress the proletariat by saying that they were superior. Yeah, not exactly an ardent Darwin follower.
60 to 100 million people. Or Pol Pot, the leader of Cambodia, who killed half of his entire population.
It was closer to a third, but I have no idea what his opinion on evolution was.
Half of the country was killed. Well, if he believed in evolution.
Did he?
Hitler was a strong believer in evolution.
Again, no. Hitler actually rejected the idea of even human common ancestry. He wasn't too sure that the Jews shared common ancestry. I'm going to take a drink for that. That was stupid. Yeah. Goodness. I might black out from just this. Goodness. Never mind election 2020.
I have never.
And so, who are you? You're not important. Really, this philosophy of evolution is not just a dumb theory, folks. It's dangerous. And I've dedicated my life to exposing the ridiculousness of this theory because I think it is not just dumb, it is indeed dangerous. Because you're not worth a thing if evolution is true. You're certainly not important. Second question, where did I come from? Everybody wants to know this. I mean, that's why they had the famous movie Roots. You know, where did I come from anyway? Well, let's go back before Roots. Let's go to seed. Okay, where did we come from anyway? If evolution is true...
Oh, wait, that was a joke.
Was it?
Yeah, somebody laughed at it. Oh, and we got a Mothra, so I'm gonna drink twice.
Thanks, Mothra. I was very thirsty.
There you go. She's always got our back. Remember, all you have to do is sing the Mothra song enough. Oh, and Vandalia 1998 for 5 says, because no one thought their ethnicity was superior before evolution was a thing. Yeah, that's true, man. I mean, look, if you go back and look at, like, you know, like ancient Greek histories and whatnot, which are some of the first, like, dedicated history texts that we have, where it's like, this is the history of the thing. Yeah, there's a whole lot of pretty harsh criticism of other ethnic groups outside of Greece, and you can also see the same thing later with the Romans, because they adopted sort of they kind of folded themselves into that whole, quote, Greco-Roman ideology, where the Greeks and the Romans were the civilized people and everyone else was barbarians, and yeah, it wasn't quite racist in the way that we have today, where you look at, like, overall, like, gross morphology, like skin tone or like nose shape or something. Instead, it focused primarily on things like various practices. Like the Greeks like to accuse people of things like human sacrifice and cannibalism left and right, even though there's scant, if any, evidence in most cases. And yeah, so it was a bit different, but yeah, the idea that your ethnicity is superior to others is definitely not dependent on evolutionary biology. Not even a little bit. Turns out that people will use whatever excuses they can come up with to explain their own xenophobia. Surprise, surprise.
Yep.
We came from a Big Bang.
I mean,
now, where did that come from?
That's pretty far
They
back,
don't know.
but okay.
They're searching for the answer. There is no...
Okay, I'm gonna drink because it's stupid that Kent is dismissive of the idea that there's something that science hasn't figured out yet and that they're looking into. Because that's the entire point of science. Science is nothing but that.
Kent does not know what science is. He's demonstrated that repeatedly.
True.
answer, okay? If evolution is true, we came from a... And at this point, I try to throw in some more jokes. I say, we came from a cosmic burp about 20 billion years ago. We just got belched into existence. The universe did.
It's not really a
What?
joke, Kent.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is. I mean, it's clearly trying to make fun of the Big Bang Theory, but it's like... Your joke is to compare it to Burping? What? I guess.
Burp, because if he says it to like 5-year-olds, they'll laugh because he said the word burp. Maybe.
His audience. So, do you think that's a joke that we should drink for?
No, I'm not gonna. It's maybe.
I don't know. I don't even know. I mean, why not? We'll just drink for it.
I'm gonna just take all these pills instead.
There you go.
Pills.
God burped, the Big Bang confirmed. Yes. I mean, hey, you know what? If you want to believe that the Big Bang was God burping the universe into existence, I'm not here to stop you. You go have fun with that. Start your own religion based on the great belch of the past. Do it. Just don't make it culty, you know? Like, don't tell people who they can live with or what they can eat, or at least not what they can eat, like, within reason. Like, you know, don't be, like, randomly like, you can't eat broccoli. Like, what? If you want to be vegetarian, then I guess whatever. But, like, yeah, don't be weird about it. Anyway.
Why am I here? Everybody would like to know what's the purpose of my life. Kids don't have to get very old and they start wondering, what's my purpose, you know? Why am I here? And then I say, if evolution is true, there is no purpose to life. So you might as well have fun.
No. What there isn't is intrinsic purpose. But the thing is that, generally speaking, the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic purpose is mostly meaningless, right? Because let's say that Christianity is 100% true, and the purpose of this life is essentially sort of a trial run for eternity, right? Are you going to be the kind of person who should be in the new kingdom of God and all that? And this is going to be determined by this life. In order for that to be the purpose... Oh, drink for Godzilla. In order for that to be the purpose for your life, you have to decide that subjectively that's what you want to do. So even with God setting a purpose for you, even if that's true, you as an individual still have to subjectively decide that that's going to be your purpose. So no matter what is the case, purpose for your life is derived from what you want it to be. You get to... Oh, drink for Godzilla again, I guess. No matter who you are, no matter what your religion is, you set your own purpose for life. Oh my goodness, come on. Is Bob Knob in the chat? But yeah, that's the thing. I will say this, it's easier to set a purpose if you believe that there is a divinely ordained purpose for you. Okay? But it doesn't make it not something you still have to set for yourself. So no, evolution doesn't mean there's no purpose to your life. Okay? Yeah, everyone has to set their own purpose. But here we go, we'll get some more Kenthold.
Eat, drink, and be merry. Tomorrow we die. What was the famous beer commercial years ago? Get all the gusto you can get. You only go around once, you know. And honestly, that is the correct answer if evolution is true. If evolution is true,
I mean...
how do you tell right from wrong?
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Wasn't Eat, Drink, and Be Merry from the Bible?
I don't remember, honestly. I usually do remember when things are from the Bible or not, but in this case, I do not.
Look it up.
Oh, TD Lane, that chat is muted, don't worry. I always mute it for 8 hours before I go live. Because TD Lane and I are in a chat that could trigger drinks, but it doesn't. But, so here's the thing about right and wrong, right? In order to avoid the Euthyphro dilemma, which is a problem for any divine command theory, you have to set a goal for morality. Now, you can set a few different goals. Most of them end up coming out with about the same moral principles if you set that goal. But yeah, the only way to determine right from wrong is by using your reason, even if you accept divine command. Because the thing is, in order to actually say whether something is right... Okay, well, there's Mothra. So the Euthyphro dilemma comes down to this. Is something right because God demands it? Or is it Or does God demand it because it's right? If it's right because God demands it, then it's fundamentally arbitrary, and it doesn't mean anything to be right or wrong in any objective sense. If it's right because God demands it, or sorry, if God demands it because it's right, then it actually doesn't really matter if God demands it. All that matters is that it be right, which means there is some kind of standard outside of God of what right and wrong is. So morality is either fundamentally arbitrary, and therefore you might make the argument kind of meaningless, or there is an external to God reason why things are right and wrong. Since I would prefer that morality not be fundamentally meaningless, it means that there is an extrinsic to God, should God exist, foundation for morality. And all you need to get a not reliant upon a particular deity morality is to set a goal and a philosophical framework for how to reach that goal, and suddenly up comes objective morality. Not necessarily absolute morality, because situations can still determine that one thing might be right in this situation and wrong in another, but objective in that you can know that there is a thing that is the right thing to do in this situation, because it is the thing that best meets the goal that you have set as your moral compass. So for instance, some people set as their goal maximizing human well-being and minimizing suffering among humans, or maximizing the well-being of all creatures that are, essentially conscious, and minimizing harm to the same. Or some people set as their goal minimizing the need to use physical force to solve conflict. And all of these things end up coming up with very similar results. And yeah, that's all it takes. This is not some kind of crazy, insanely complicated to think about thing. Where do you get morality without divine command theory? So yeah, we'll get a little bit more Kent in here.
What is sin, for that matter? There's no such thing as sin if the evolution theory is true.
You can just say sin equals immorality, doing things that are wrong, morally incorrect. That's all you have to do. Because that's basically what sin means in the Bible, is just doing the thing that is wrong.
Because after all, we're nothing but a bunch of chemicals. The strongest really ought to survive. So the people who act that way, like Joseph Stalin and Pol Pot, they're just acting out their philosophy. That's what they believed all along. All right, half hour. Everybody stand up, turn around twice, and sit down. Night classes, you got to do this.
You may do that, audience.
Vitaly, did you wash your hands?
Yes, sir.
Here you go. Go around, give every... Okay, fourth and final question of the 4 great questions of life. Where am I going when I die?
So they did a jump cut.
Yeah.
But they could have done it a little earlier.
Yeah, I don't know why they chose to do the jump cut there, but I'm glad they cut some of this nonsense out so I don't have to listen to it.
And by the way, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die is in the Bible.
Where is it? Is it Ecclesiastes?
So, it's 1 Corinthians, where
Really?
Paul quotes from Isaiah, but I thought it was...
So wait, is it from Isaiah?
I thought they were 2 separate lines that were similar, and then if you added them together, the whole thing was eat. I thought one was like eat and drink, for tomorrow we die, and another one was just eat, drink, and be merry. But
No, you're thinking of drink for tomorrow we may die, which is from Star Trek.
No, I'm not thinking of that.
That was what Kern said to Worf.
That's probably true.
Sorry.
Did you say Paul?
No, Paul,
kind of.
Paul cribbed his notes from Kern from the future of Star Trek that was transmitted back in time to Paul via God powers.
I'm here on this web zone, it says it's in the Bible. So eat it, Stanley.
All right, well there you go. It's biblical. Eat, drink, and be merry is from the Bible. So the Bible clearly is not against drinking. So there you go. Take that, Kent, who thinks that the Bible is against drinking. All right, here we go.
Everybody realizes we're mortal, we're going to die. So this is an important question that everybody thinks about. And every religion tries to give an answer to this. What do the Hindus teach in their worldview? Well, you're going...
Hold up. Earlier, Kent, you said there were only 2 worldviews, creation and evolution. Now you're saying that Hindus have a different worldview from Christians? Is contradicting himself reason enough to drink?
Sure.
That's stupid, yeah. There you go.
It's a plot hole, Kent. This is the sequel.
Oops. There we go.
To be resurrected into something else. You know, you're going to be reincarnated. Everybody has an opinion of what's going to happen to them when they die, don't they? Do you think some of those opinions are wrong?
Yeah, undoubtedly.
Yeah, most of them, right? So one of our jobs as Christians, if we believe we have the truth, then our job is to teach everybody else what that truth is. It's a battle of worldviews. And we're trying to get them converted over to the creation worldview. Now the Bible says, in the beginning. This is actually an amazing verse. I want you to look at it carefully. There are 10 words. In the beginning is a reference to time. Time has 3 dimensions. Past, present, future, right?
No. No, I'm going to drink. A dimension is a vector along which you can travel. Time has 1 dimension. Because there's only 1 vector along which you can travel. And it's... yeah, no. Like, up, down, left, right, forward, backward. Those are dimensions. Time is a different dimension on its own. But it's only 1. The fact that we can only currently travel along it in one of the, you know, possible 2 directions that you could travel along that vector is probably an emergent phenomenon based on our proximity to the Big Bang, which as a low entropy thing. I don't want to get into like entropy and it deciding the direction of the arrow of time. Whatever. Who cares? But
I care.
Well, okay, but I'd still not...
I know you don't want to do it. You don't have to do it.
No, I don't want to do it now. If you want to make a video and publish it on my channel about entropy and the directionality of the arrow of time, you do it. I'll publish it here. I don't care.
Okay.
You let me know. I'll vet it first, but yeah, I'll do it.
No.
Okay.
I would have to know about it first.
Fair enough. But yeah.
That's why I want you to talk about it.
Time doesn't have 3 different dimensions. It's got 3 periods in which we can talk about. We can talk about the present, what's happening right now as we're sitting here. And we can talk about the future, which we have not gotten to. And we can talk about the past, which is gone. And as far as we know, can't really be revisited. But those aren't dimensions. Alright, we'll go back to Kent's.
Where can you be? Where could you possibly go to escape time? There's no place you can go. Time permeates everything, right?
Bent.
Yeah.
I feel like you know of a place where you could go where time would cease. At least for you.
Inside a black hole?
Yes! There you go.
Yeah.
Yep. In fact, you can escape time. You might not want to, because it'll be pretty darn unpleasant, but yes, as a matter of fact, you can escape.
Unpleasant? It'd be hardcore, man.
I mean,
it'd be awesome.
Spaghettification doesn't sound fun.
And like a brain aneurysm does?
I mean, also no, but I feel like those aren't the only 2 options available to me. I feel like I could do neither.
I don't know. If I had... Eventually I'll die. I think spaghettification would be a really cool way to die.
Fair enough, I suppose. But yeah, a black hole is a place you can go to escape time, Kent. So you're wrong. If I had the You're Wrong song handy, I would totally play it here, but I don't. Sorry.
Just like God permeates everything. You cannot escape.
Yeah, you
He
can.
is all places, at all times. But God created time. Right here in this verse. In the beginning. See, a lot of people have this...
Alright, Andrew Cummings says, but that's based on general relativity and we don't have a theory of quantum gravity. Fair enough, but I'll just say this. As you're falling past the event horizon, you would slow to essentially a stop, and in no finite amount of time from an outside observer would you actually cross the event horizon. So it's reasonable enough.
This idea that God is stuck in time like we are. No. God created time. He's outside of time. The person who creates the computer he's not the computer. He's not even in the computer. He's outside of the computer. He's above and beyond the computer. That is evolution at work, folks. By the way, when you're speaking, stuff like this will
God's
happen.
like,
You
"Get
might as well
this
make a
crap
joke out of
out
it. Okay? And that's always a good one. I was on the radio today doing a radio talk show, and the phone system went dead in the middle of somebody calling in. And so I said, well, folks, according to evolution, things get better automatically.
Is that Eric?
I think so.
Black tape on this poster looks really good, I'm sure, doesn't it? We'll try to do better for next week. Somebody help him. Is that level? Up on this side. Okay.
Who cares?
Is that right?
It's like
That's good, okay.
Yeah,
It's
that's Eric.
I'm sorry, son. Why would I question, right? Chip off the old block. Another thing I noticed, when you put up your displays, fellas, put them up straight.
What do you think Kent would say right at this point in his life if you told him that in like a few decades he would be suing his son Eric for return of basically the place he's standing right now?
And those posters.
No, I think he still has the posters. I don't know.
Does he?
He at least has the files to recreate them.
You know what? I don't know what Kent would think. I think he would call me crazy and call me some evolutionist, atheist, something, and
Okay.
kick me out.
Yeah, I feel like he wouldn't be very credulous, but
And I would be like, you don't know me at all, Kent. We're not related.
are you sure that you're not
Well,
related
it
to
says
your
no
Uncle
relation.
Kent? But he's Uncle Kent.
It's Uncle Kent, but no relation. That's
Oh.
part of the name.
Hmm.
So
Make a big deal out of it, okay? It looks sloppy when you walk into a church and, posters are crooked. I make a joke out of it with the kids when I have kids help me put them up. I say, now here's my poster, and there are 8 possible ways to put this up. 7 of them are wrong. And I put it upside down, sideways, backwards, 8 different positions. This is the way I want it right here. Oh, okay, Mr. Hovind. And make a joke out of it, and you get the kids to help you. Okay, in the beginning is reference to time. People often say, well, if God made the world 6,000 years ago, what did God do for billions of years before the creation? And this is the answer I give is the answer you have to give on lots of those type questions. I will say, your question assumes that God is stuck in time like we are. So there is no answer to your question because your question is based upon a faulty assumption. Does that make sense?
All right, I'm actually going to do my first drink of the night for Kent got that right. It is, in fact, a malformed question. The general Abrahamic conception of God is that, in fact, he is outside time in some way, and therefore there was essentially no time before the creation of the universe. And, yeah, there you go. That is an accurate assessment of that question. It is a malformed question per standard Christian theology. So, good job, Ken. There are some somewhat fringe Christian groups who would disagree, but whatever. The vast majority of Christian groups would agree with that assessment. And so, yeah, it is in fact a malformed question.
You're thinking God is stuck in time. Just because you're stuck in the year 2000 doesn't mean God is in the year 2000. Before the creation, there was no time. It goes into a different dimension called eternity. Now, the human brain cannot comprehend that. There's a lot of things we currently cannot comprehend. Our brain just won't stretch that big. I tell people, if I could understand God, he wouldn't be worth worshiping. Would he?
I don't know.
Think about it. If God would fit in my 3-pound brain, he's not very big, is he?
Was that a joke?
I tell people, it's not the things I don't understand about God that bother me.
Oh, yeah, sure, I'll drink
It's
for
the things I do understand that bother me. It's the same with God's Word, okay? There's a lot of things about it I don't understand, and I'm working on them. The things I do understand bother me. I'm not doing all of them. I don't know if anybody else here is having the same problem, but I would assume that's the case. Okay. There are 2 different ways of looking at the world. These are known as
Hinduism and
worldviews.
Christianity.
You got one back there. Can you?
Oh, wait. Wait, so now we're back to there only being 2 worldviews? I'm going to drink again, because
yeah,
Kent...
and if you get it right, you get a crazy.
Yeah, but so is it evolution and creation, or is it Hinduism and Christianity, or is it Hinduism and atheism,
Like
or...
pink or whatever those colors are. So yeah, creation and evolution.
Yeah, see, that's the thing that bugs me. Is it's like, look, dude, you've already said that Hinduism has a different worldview than you do, so there aren't only two ways to look at it. It just really annoys me that Kenthold can't even be internally consistent. That's the absolute bare minimum that anyone could expect from anyone.
Does he listen to himself when he talks? And if so,
apparently no.
How short is his short-term memory?
I feel like you know that guy from Memento. If you've seen Memento,
is it that bad?
I think it's worse.
Ooh, that was about 1.5 to 5 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Kent is the guy from Memento, as far as I can tell. But maybe worse. So.
There we go. Two different worldviews. What are the two different worldviews? Creation and evolution. There we go. Right. Okay. We're going to go, except with one exception.
And by the way, it's come up a few times in the chat. Yes, I know that in the Bible, God acts as a being within time in certain areas. I'm just going to say, I'm not really here to have a theological debate, but there are, if you want to know the Christian or Jewish responses to things like that, they're out there. Take them for what you will, but the standard, at least as far as I know, Christian theology, and I think it's similar in Judaism. I'm less confident about Islam, and even more or less certain about it in, say, like, I don't know, Rastafarianism. But the general Christian consensus is that God acts in time while being overall outside of it, in a way similar to like let's say you had scripted an entire video, and you have the whole thing laid out in your, video editor, and you're not actually acting inside the, you're not bound by what comes next in your video. You can do something at any point you want. And I know it's a bit of a bad analogy because you're stuck in your own time, but whatever. You can insert things any place you want on the timeline for the video. But like I said, are there problems with that? Sure. Are they addressed in varying ways? Also, yes. If you want to look them up, be my guest. I'm not going to say what I think about the merits of those arguments.
How many Thursdays in a row for this class? 10. Dan, you finally got another one. There you go. You look like you're starving over there. Okay. Huh? Well, 9 more.
No, you're going to do one Tuesday.
I said with one exception, there'll be 10 weeks in a row. Right. So I got that. I'll eat that one. So, in this verse right here, in the beginning, it's a reference to time. Every religion has a story of how we got here. The evolution has an in the beginning, don't they? In the beginning, Big Bang.
I guess.
You have to have that. Where do we start? Now, after people say, we sing songs, when we've been there 10,000 years. That's not true. I mean, it's a neat song, and I like the song, but folks, it's just not true. We're not going to be there 10,000 years. We're going to be there. I don't understand it. I can tell you about it, but it doesn't mean I understand it, okay? He's actually going to stop time. There shall be no more time. And before time, there wasn't any time. So once upon a time, there was a time when there was no time. Think about that one.
Oh, hey, that was a joke, I guess.
Yeah, but like 3 people chuckled, so...
All right, okay, we'll let it go.
And time is a trinity, 3 dimensions, past, present, future. The illustration I used to help people try to understand this, I don't know that our brain could ever understand it completely, but if you get in a raft and go down Grand Canyon, you're going around all the curves in Grand Canyon, going downstream, over the rapids, all this stuff. You're in the raft. You cannot see very far ahead of you.
That's true. I'll take a drink.
Maybe there's bends in the river and you don't know what's coming next for sure. Let's suppose somebody gets in a raft and they head down Grand Canyon.
Okay.
A couple hours later, somebody else starts down the canyon.
Okay.
A few hours later, somebody else starts down the canyon. Here are these groups all spaced out through the whole canyon.
I just really wanted to get to a point on this one.
None of them can see each other.
The Grand Canyon ones.
That river going through the canyon is like time. Now let's suppose I am in a helicopter Way up.
Oh, by the way, Justin Archosaur says, you think some of Kent Hovind's students became atheists after the BS he spewed out on their Sunday school? Yes, actually, I know for a fact that some of Kent Hovind's, some of the people that Kent Hovind has influenced have become atheists as a result of realizing just how wrong Kent was about, well, virtually everything. I will say I do not think that that is the inevitable outcome, because I also know people who have been unironic fans of Kent Hovind, realized just how much of what he was saying was complete nonsense, and remained Christians. So I would say that overall Kent Hovind is a net loss for Christianity, if that's a thing that you care about. If in fact you are opposed to Christianity, then I guess maybe you should hope that Kent Hovind sticks around for a long, long time, because I am extremely confident that he pushes more people out of Christianity than he brings into it. Yeah. So there you go. But back to Kent.
Over the top of the canyon. And I have a radio, and I can talk to anybody in any of those rafts because they have radios. They cannot see each other, but they can all see me. Okay? Because I'm not in the river. I'm above the river. Does that make sense? I can see the person that got in and that's, been there 3 weeks. I can also see the person that's just now getting in. I can see them both at the same time. God, right now, can see 400 BC and 2000 AD.
Okay. It's AD 2000.
I don't claim to understand it. That's the best I can do to illustrate it, okay?
Can you explain even more?
God sees it all.
For another 3 or 4 minutes?
No, he can't. And actually, I liked my analogy better than Kent's.
Just because it's better.
Oh, thank you.
He already knows what's coming around the next bend for you. Now, you don't know, and it's a little scary going through life. What's going to happen next? Well, God knows.
It's not really
so
that
if
scary.
I was you...
Just don't worry about it.
I mean, worry about what of it you can plan for, and... I mean, that's the best you're going to do.
More about, I need to do this in 5 years. Well, that's in 5 years,
yeah.
So don't worry about it.
I'll say this. Take reasonable precautions for things that can be foreseen. Other stuff, I mean, who knows?
You can plan for the future without worrying all the time.
Maybe an asteroid is going to strike your house. Okay, maybe. What are you going to do about it? You're just going to have to deal with it. And unless God is about to warn you about the asteroid, which as far as I know he has never done, despite the fact that asteroids have in fact fallen through people's homes, that's a thing that's happened. Just live your life, don't be stupid, and there you go. But Kent,
I would stay on that walkie-talkie and say, okay, which way do I go here? And if he says stay to the right, well then stay to the right, because he sees the rapids coming that you don't see, right? So the whole secret to the Christian life is stay in contact with the Father and say, which way do I go? Keep me in the right position so I don't mess up. From where you're looking, it might look better if you stay to the left. But he sees something you don't see. If he says stay to the right, well then just trust him and stay to the right. So this verse is awesome.
It would... Whatever, I'm not going to comment on it. I'll just keep going.
The beginning is a reference to time. God created the heaven. That is a reference to space. Space has 3 dimensions: length, width, and height. Where can you possibly go to not be in space? There's no place you can go, is there? No matter where you are, there's a coordinate for you, a length, width, and a height, right? We're stuck in it. Just like time permeates everything.
Almost everything.
So does space. Now, if there wasn't any time, then there couldn't be any space either. These 3, time, space, and matter, is called a time-space-matter continuum.
Wait, what? And have you heard of a time-space-matter continuum?
No.
No. I've heard of a time-space continuum.
Heard of a space-time continuum.
Space-time, yeah. There you go. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, time-space-matter? No. I've never...
Well, I mean, you do have to have matter in that space-time for it to really have any
meaning?
Size. I don't know. Well, maybe, but like, how big is the empty space-time if there's no matter in it? Can you even measure it?
Are you talking about how the heat death is mathematically equivalent to the Big Bang if you
Yeah, I
took the
watched
scale
that
factor?
episode of PBS Space
Yeah,
Time.
everybody, after we go offline, go binge PBS Spacetime. It's great.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
Do it.
it's good stuff. Yeah. But don't stop watching this to go do that. Do that after.
Right
Yeah.
afterwards.
PBS Spacetime is about to get flooded with subscribers.
Oh yeah, they're gonna get another 40 or so.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice. And tell all your friends too.
Yeah.
And your enemies.
Say Dapper Dino sent me. Or whatever, I don't care.
If you want to study a lot more on that, there's a great chapter on that topic in Henry Morris's book called The Long War Against God, which is a great book. We don't sell it in our ministry. You can get it through ICR. We could offer it, I suppose. We could order if somebody wants it. Tremendous book, The Long War Against God. And he goes off on a rabbit trail there talking about the time-space-matter continuum. It's really tremendous. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Earth is a reference to matter, physical, material world. Which
No. The heavens is a reference to things that are, beyond Earth, like the sky. And Earth is a reference to, Earth, Kent. I was willing to let you go with your equivocation between the heavens and space in terms of dimensionality, but now that you've made it stupid, actually stupid enough for me to drink, because the heavens includes all of the things like stars and nebulae and galaxies and whatever else is out there. That is clearly not what is meant. Because when the Bible later goes on to talk about the heavenly bodies, it's because that's what God made there. And yeah. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth is a summary of what's to come next. And so in day, 2, when God makes the sun and the moon and all the stars? Yeah, that's the heavens part of God making the heavens and the earth.
Yeah.
also happens to have 3 dimensions: solid, liquid, and gas.
No. Bent, would you care to name any more phases of matter between solid, other than solid, liquid, or gas?
Well, they're phases of matter. They're not dimensions.
Yeah, they're not dimensions, but would you care? They're
Plasma.
The plasma is another one. What about a Bose-Einstein condensate?
What about neutronium?
Yeah.
Does that count?
I mean, sure, why not? It's not a solid or a liquid or a gas. It's something else, or a plasma, or a Bose-Einstein condensate. So, what are we up to? 5 phases of matter? In fact,
I can't count that high.
I recently heard that there had been some experimental verification for yet another phase of matter. So no, Kent. Not only are there no dimensions to matter, the number of phases, which is what you mean, isn't 3. It's possibly 6. Or it could be even higher. So, yeah. As Bailithal says, solid, liquid, and gas are not dimensions. But even if they were dimensions, they're not the only ones that matter takes. I don't know if you've ever heard of the sun. It's pretty important. You might have seen it once or twice. I don't know. It's not made of any of those. It's made of plasma, and plasma is not a gas. It's most similar to gas in that it does not have a defined volume or shape that it always takes. However, it is not a gas. Not at all. For one thing, it can be affected by magnetic fields, unlike gas, which is electrically neutral. So, yeah, we're gonna head back to Kent for some more stupidity.
Now you can get a superheated gas called a plasma, but it's still basically a gas, okay?
No, it's not. Okay, so let's talk about what I'm gonna drink real quick. Okay, so why is a plasma not a gas despite being a fluid that does not have a defined volume or shape? So the big thing about plasma is that it's ionized. The electrons and the nuclei of a plasma are not associated with each other. They both flow freely throughout the substance, right? Now, this can be done by superheating, but it can also be done through really high voltages. Like, if you've ever been to the, like a science museum where they have that little plasma ball where you stick your hands on it, the plasma streamers, like, attract your hands and your hair stands on end, and now you know science?
Exactly.
Exactly. That is not a gas. Gas doesn't do that. Now,
You cannot learn from a book. Sorry, go on. Sorry.
So the thing is, though, that what's doing that is not just superheating, it's extremely high voltages. The extremely high voltages are pulling the atomic nuclei and the electrons in different directions, resulting in a plasma, an ionized state of matter. It's not a superheated gas, although extreme heat can do that. But the other thing the extreme heat will do is also break down the covalent or the various bonds between between the molecules, right? So you can't even have, say, a water plasma. It's impossible. You can have an oxygen-hydrogen plasma, that's fine, but you won't find any water molecules in that. So plasma is even restricted in terms of what chemicals can actually make it up. Plasma is not just superheated gas. If it were, every time you touch one of those plasma balls, your hands would melt. I've touched those several times. I used to own one. Till it broke. Bent, have you ever owned one of those or touched any of those plasma balls?
One tiny, cheap one that I got from a curiosity box.
Did it melt your hand?
Great. Didn't melt my hand. Didn't warm me up at all.
No, really?
No.
Huh.
Yeah.
I guess plasma isn't just superheated gas, Kent.
Guess not.
Okay, here we go. I'm gonna try to get through this without, like, committing seppuku.
I think you can do it.
Hopefully.
It's just extra hot. So we have a trinity of trinities
What?
in only 10 words.
No. No.
Only God could write a book like
Okay. No. Look, okay. So he's saying, oh, there's three things in space, because there's up, down, left, right, and forward, backwards, or whatever he said, height, depth, length, whatever, I don't care. But then the matter part didn't work.
He also said there was breadth, or whatever.
Whatever.
Last
I don't remember
last
exactly
time.
what he said for the spatial dimensions. I guess it was like height, length, and breadth or something. Whatever.
I don't care.
X, Y, and Z. Or X, Y, and Z, if you're from almost anywhere besides the United States and a few parts of Canada. But anyway, yeah, no. The matter part fails utterly, and there aren't dimensions. Although I guess you could say that there being a past, present, and future, which is sort of a logical requirement of what time is, kind of correlates to there being three coordinates in space, I guess. But then your matter point just completely falls apart. It's not a trinity of trinities. It's just not. Okay. I'm gonna drink for that, by the way.
I feel like we already did, but we might not have.
I'm going to anyway, because it's intermission time soon.
like that. So in the beginning, God created the heaven and earth. Now if that verse is true, that gives you a particular way to answer the four great questions of life. Who am I? I'm a creature of God. Where did I come from? God created us. Why are we here?
God created us is not an answer to the question. It's a cop-out. Right? Because here's the thing. Even if it's true, right? So let's say, okay, let's say you guys, the whole audience, right? You visit my place here in Arizona, which you would not all fit, but let's just pretend that you're all extremely short and skinny. Okay, so I make for you an amazing meal, right? It's like a 5-course dinner. It's got stuffed goose in there, and there's like filet mignon wrapped in bacon and stuffed with cheese, and there's artichoke hearts with a butter and hot sauce and salt and pepper sauce, dipping sauce, and there's ice cream. I don't care, whatever, salads, all sorts of stuff, right? And someone says, "Hey, how'd this food get here?" And I say, "Well, I made it." And you're like, "Okay, yeah, but I was kind of hoping for a recipe." And I said, "I made it." I made it isn't a recipe. I cooked this steak is not a recipe. What someone is saying is, how did this steak come to be a steak? Now, I could tell you, oh, well, okay, I put it, I rubbed it down with some spices and, I melted some butter over it, and then I put it on a pan, a frying pan, and I put some rosemary on it, and now I'm getting hungry thinking about cooking some steak, whatever. That would be an explanation of how I made the steak. Saying God does it doesn't help any. God has to have had a mechanism, right? Now, if you say, oh, he created ex nihilo as is, it's like, okay, but what does that look like? What would it be like if I stood there watching this happen? That's still a question to ask. Simply saying some guy did a thing isn't an explanation. And science is after the explanation. Science wants the recipe. It doesn't want to know who the chef is. It doesn't really care who the chef is. It doesn't even really care if there is a chef. It wants the recipe, not to know who the chef is. So pointing to who you think the chef is doesn't help someone who wants to know the recipe. And I want to know the recipe. Analogy time, yay!
I like it. That was a good one.
Thank you. Alright, here we go. A little bit more, and then I'm going to go and refresh this drink.
Must be to please him if he made us, right? I mean, if he made us, it must be for a reason, and we better find out what the reason is and do it. Where am I going when I die?
All right, we again, the whole purpose thing, you have to give your own purpose to life, even if there is a divinely ordained purpose to your life. You have to choose to accept it. You can choose to reject it and have a different purpose or no purpose. And if there is no divinely ordained purpose, you still have to choose a purpose or to choose there to be no purpose. I would suggest that you choose a purpose because I think you'll have a happier time going through life. I can't force you to. You can be a nihilist. They're nihilists, Donnie.
Well, no, that depends on God since he's the creator. So I better find out what he wants and do what he says. It really answers the questions of life right there, the 4 great questions. Now, Satan came to Eve in the Garden of Eden. People have...
It actually just says the serpent, but I'll just let it pass because there's been a lot of Christian theological discussion coming down to the idea that it was probably Satan, and I don't, at least on this channel, care to make an exception. And also, for $10, Zemor42 says, excellent analogy, Dapper. Well, thank you. I actually do like that one. I just came up with it on the fly. But I think it's a pretty good one. Yeah. Theology asks who the chef is. Science asks what the recipe is. And I think it's important to recognize that those aren't the same question. And you can... Now, you don't have to care about...
there's anything wrong with either question either.
Yeah, you can care about both, or neither, or only one of those questions, and that's fine. Like, if you don't care what the recipe is, you just want to know who the chef is because you like that chef, great, that's fine. Okay. Just don't tell me I got the recipe wrong when I've been trying to answer the question of what the recipe is. And I have a lot of evidence to back myself up.
Right.
That's all I ask. Don't come to me after having not bothered to find out what the recipe is and tell me the recipe is wrong. Because you know what? You didn't do your research on that one. But here we go. We're going to get a little bit more Kent in. And my drink is now actually mostly just water, so it's disappointing, but we'll keep going for a little bit.
Asked the question for years, when did Satan fall from heaven? We'll get into more of that later, but apparently, sometime between the creation and Genesis chapter 3, Satan had decided people ought to worship him. My theory on this is, since Adam was 130 years old when Seth was born, and that's really the first date we have to go on, as far as, any dates in the Bible. 130 is the first number given. Before Seth is born, they had 2 sons, Cain and Abel.
Okay.
Cain killed Abel.
Yep.
Okay. Who was their third son? Seth. Who got that?
Oh, hey, wait, Cain killed Abel. You mean the Cain who was the ancestor of the apparently T-Rex monster from Grendel from Beowulf? Because Kent thinks that Beowulf was a T-Rex, even though in the text, as we've read in Old English several times on this show, it says he was a descendant of Cain who slew his brother Abel. It says it right there in plain Old English. Yeah, that
No.
Cain. Just wanted to bring that up. That apparently Eve popped a T-Rex out of her birth canal.
Eve is the mother of every living thing.
That's how we explain Grendel being it.
Literally.
It's true. It does say Eve is the mother of all living. Yeah. And hey, we're apparently all into taking the Bible literally, so sure, why not? I just wanted to bring up another one of Kent Hovind's most ridiculous things, that Grendel is a T-Rex, and I almost dropped our first F-bomb of the stream. It was close. Yeah, I made it. I might have made this one a bit strong. Yeah. Here we go.
All right.
Who else got it?
Yes, RJM True
Who else
says
knows
literally in plain old English. I mean, it is
Every
very
time.
plain
Go give
old
everybody
English.
a crazen again.
It's
Okay.
extremely basic old English.
Give him the whole bucket. He washed his hands yesterday, so. Okay. In the back. Okay, give him one. We're out of notebooks. We'll bring some more. For those that just came in late, the seminar notebook will come with the course. You give Heidi your money. Heidi, raise your hand there. And give Heidi. Oh, you got more?
Oh, good. He's shilling in his course for his
You've seen these
course.
before?
Oh, Godzilla.
And Heidi will be keeping attendance and keeping grades and stuff like that for me. Kind of the class secretary. Who did not get a crazen? You need some more, Vitaly? You got enough? You didn't get one yet? Are you a good catch? Ooh. 3-second rule. Now, if it's on the ground for less than 3 seconds, there's no germs on it. It takes them 3 seconds to jump on.
Is that it? That?
I feel like there's a weird,
plop it in there.
unexpected jump cut coming.
All right. I don't.
That should have happened a while ago.
Either way, I'm going to finish off my drink for that joke that was just terrible. And Hayden Attila says, Prost! And yeah. Also, kampai if we're going Japanese. Kampe if we're going Korean. Skal if we're going various Nordic languages. Cheers, you know, whatever. But it is intermission time because I essentially now just have some melting ice in my glass, and that is not acceptable. So, we're going to go for a quick intermission, and we will be... Oh, Nani? Dare? Oh, Ojira desu ka? Hai, Gojira-san. Hai. Alright, we are officially back after a little bit of a mess up because I'm trying to produce this show myself. But you know what? I refuse to do something like not pay Boole to produce or something like that. So, stuck producing on my own. But anyway, we are back. I have a second drink of the same type. But what do you got?
More of this vodka.
That vodka, is it vodka?
It's water.
Yeah, okay.
It's water.
All right. Oh, and we got an Opa. Opa. I'll take a drink for that one. No, why not? This once. All right. So back to Kent after a wonderful intermission, and then some of me faffing about on OBS. Oh, hey, Mothra. Actually, that's kind of interesting. So that actually came through. I sent a creation as something. And he agrees with me on this, and yeah, I thought that he would have the same opinion as me on this particular subject. It was basically me criticizing the message, which is a Bible paraphrase, and I'm not a huge fan, and neither is he, and we're on good terms, so I sent it to him. It's in his image, the guy who did the dinosaurs, that I did the Fluffy Dino Lads video about, or videos about. Yeah, so he and I are on good terms, and I'm hoping to keep it that way. So, which, by the way, reminds me, I do have a Fluffy Dino Lads, the movie video edited and uploaded. Oh, there you go. It'll be coming out in a few weeks. So if you missed that series, or you want to review it all in one video without the intro-outro sections, except the very beginning and the very end, well, there you go. It's that's the video for you. So stay tuned for that. I'll talk more about exactly what's coming up later on as we start to wrap up a little bit. But here we go, more Kent.
Now, if you come off the bottom of your shoe, they probably already have germs on them by then. All right. Man, those are good. I got them on an airplane sometime a few months ago, and I thought, man, this is awesome. Have you had them before? I don't know why I never heard of them. I guess I travel too much. Okay. My theory on this is that God made everything in 6 days, so Satan was made as just one of the created.
And Bool says, Dapper Dino, I feel naked. Hey, Bool. Oh, my goodness, Bool is here. Hey, how's it going, man? I didn't even know you were in the chat. That's awesome. I'm glad you're here. But yeah, dude, I'm not going to have you produce if I can't afford to pay you. And right now I can't. And yeah. If at some point I can afford to pay you to produce, though, you're on my short list for producers. So let me know. Yeah. But yeah, that's right now. Technically, I can't even afford to do this myself. So we'll keep going.
Beings. He was a cherub. He was not an angel. There are several different types of heavenly beings. There's angels, seraphim, cherubs, the 4 and 20 elders. I'm not sure what they all are, but there's more than just angels that God made.
I mean, the elders are pretty clear. This is from Revelation. It's like there's elders, and they're talking to God in Revelation about what's going on Earth. It's pretty clear that these are Christians who've died and then gone to be with God in heaven, awaiting the resurrection. Like, it's not like it's a big mystery. This is a pretty uncontroversial interpretation. Oh, but drink. But Kent doesn't want them to be that, because that gives justification for intercessory prayer from saints, which is a Catholic doctrine that Kent doesn't like. So that's why he's not going with that interpretation, which is the obvious interpretation from Revelation. So, yeah, whatever.
It appears, and people argue about this, the study is called angelology or something, but it appears that the angels were given one opportunity to choose.
Oh, I'll answer real quick. Zenmore 42 asks what's wrong with the message. So the message is a paraphrase, which basically means it's not a translation. It is not giving you what the original text actually says, literally. Oh, and drink from Mothra. And the thing is, well, I think that the authorial intent as like what's meant in colloquial sense is an important thing to have. I also think it's extremely important to know what the literal words are. And while translations will always lose something, I think the goal should be to lose as little as possible. And so I'm not a big phrase of a paraphrase of the Bible. I would much prefer to have a translation. I understand the idea that you want to get across the authorial intent, but I think that is better left to commentaries and footnotes in a translation than it is to the main body of the text. And that is a stance I maintain for any ancient work, or even any work of, say, like, the Middle Ages or whatever. So, like, I don't want to read a paraphrase of the Quran. I don't want to read a paraphrase of the Canterbury Tales. I don't want to, although I could just read the Canterbury Tales in the original, because Middle English is kind of easy if you know enough Old English, but whatever. I don't want to read a paraphrase of the Odyssey. I don't want to read a paraphrase of any of these things. I want a translation, and if you need to tell me what this idiom or whatever means, it's where you put it in a footnote, or put it in a parenthetical, or put something in brackets. Any of those things, that's fine. But I want to have the literal meaning of the words in front of me. So, yeah, that's what I have against the Message as a Bible quote-unquote translation. I know Bent isn't... he doesn't share my opinion on this, and that's fine. You don't have to either, but I
get it, but, like...
I'm not a fan.
What if I just want a paraphrase of something?
It should not be your primary interaction with the text in question, is my opinion.
And that's fair.
All right.
I don't disagree with that, but, like...
But yeah, there you go. Oh man, people are toasting me. To Dapper, says Donald Edwards. Man. You guys are too kind. But here we go, more Kent.
To rebel. A third of them did, and followed Satan. The theory goes that probably after God's made Adam and Eve and made everything, Satan was or Lucifer at the time, was the choir director.
What?
Directing the praises. Everybody's praising God. Everybody's having a wonderful time. Boy, God, you're the greatest. And Adam and Eve are praising God. Everything's fine. And Satan...
This is real quick, but I want to know where in the Bible you get the indication that Satan was the choir director in heaven. Because I'm not familiar with that verse, but I would
Let me
love...
pull up the King James Version.
Okay, well, I'm going to keep going while you do that.
Thought, that's a pretty nice world down there. Those people ought to be praising me. After all, I'm smart, I'm handsome, I'm intelligent, etc., etc. And it describes him in Ezekiel chapter 28. It says, he was from the day that thou wast created. And we know from comparing that with Job chapter 38 and other verses that everything was created during those 6 days. Some people are going to teach that there was a pre-Adamic civilization. That is totally unscriptural.
Oh, by the way, I want to point out here, because Boole is in the chat, I have said before that a reasonable proxy for how good of a human being you are is how well you treat Boole, assuming that you know about him. So, there you go. You better be nice to Boole, or at least not know about him, because otherwise, I'm just going to assume that you're a terrible person. But Bent has some more about the Satan being choir directed. Here we go.
First of all, I'll just stick with the topic. I don't know Boole very well, but I know Boole's awesome. So be awesome to Boole. Next. Choir director is not in the King James Version of the Bible. The word choir by itself is also not in the King James Version of the Bible. The word director by itself is also not in the King James Version of the Bible. So I'm not sure what Kent was talking about.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like for someone who's like a sola scriptura guy, he's importing a lot of extra biblical stuff into this. But, hey, what do I know?
Unscientific and unnecessary. The whole purpose of that pre-Adamite civilization is to try to make the Bible say the earth is billions of years old, and the Bible doesn't say that. Exodus...
Oh, and I'm a Red Whale asks, who's Boole? Boole is a guy who does a lot of producing for live streams on YouTube for a number of people who are in sort of the debunking community, and he is very much a stand-up guy. I kind of wonder if Boole has ever done anything wrong in his life. And a few people, who I'm not going to get into it right now, but a few people have mistreated him. It's not okay. And yeah, Boole's a great guy. And he's a producer. And if I can ever afford him, because again, I'm not going to have him work for me for free, but if I can ever afford him, he's on my short list of people to bring on as a producer.
20 in the Ten Commandments is real clear. In 6 days, the Lord made heaven and earth,
Yes,
the sea,
taboo.
and all that in them is. And there's a large movement of Christians, or so-called Christians, who are running around saying, you know, there's a pre-Adamite rebellion, there's a gap theory, there's a day-age theory. We'll get into more of that later. Those theories, I think, are unscriptural, and I think...
All right, so I'm going to real quick say hi to Robert Birkinson, who is a flat earther and creationist, I believe. And here's the deal. I'm going to answer this one quick question, but in the future, if you want me to answer questions about such as this, you're either going to have to super chat them, or you're going to have to come on the channel and have a live discussion. But he says, if evolution is true, why are there carvings of dinosaurs from people such as the ecostones? Because those are fake. Well, the ones showing spaceships and brain surgery and dinosaurs are fake. Acambro figures, there aren't any dinosaurs in the Acambro figures, etc. And I don't know what etc. is, so I'm just going to have to go ahead and say, I have never seen a compelling reason to think that any artifact accurately depicts a dinosaur, or even depicts an identifiable dinosaur. And many of the ones that are alleged artifacts that portray dinosaurs, one, don't portray them accurately, and two, are known to be fakes, like the ecostones that portray such things. There are authentic ecostones, don't get me wrong, but the ecostones that Hovind likes to talk about are admitted forgeries that are also not even accurate depictions of the animals in question. So there you go. But again, if you want further questions like that answered, I'm being nice now, you're either going to have to super chat or just come on the channel, which I'm more than happy to host a discussion, whether moderated or not. I have several people who are willing to moderate. Maya could moderate, Erica could moderate, I think Bent could probably moderate, so there you go.
Yeah.
I think dangerous. Because now you're going to have death before Adam sinned. I mean, if there's a pre-Adamite world, what happened to them? They'll say, well, they died when Satan fell from heaven. Now, this was what I was taught as a young Christian. I had a Schofield Reference Edition, which teaches the gap theory. The Dake's Study Bible teaches the gap theory. Many TV evangelists now are going around speaking the gap theory. Hagee, what's the guy's name? Hagee. He did a whole big, long series on the gap theory. He calls it a gap fact.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it's just not true. Genesis 3 is the first reference we have of Lucifer being a bad guy. At the end of chapter 1, the last verse, verse 31, God looked at everything and said it was very good. Would it be very good if the devil had already fallen by then? No. Here's the clues we have. Adam was 130 when Seth was born. Before that, Cain and Abel were born. No dates are given. Before that, Lucifer was out as a bad guy. So I tell folks it might have been 100 years before Satan fell from heaven. Could have been. We don't know. Anyway, Lucifer came to Eve in Genesis chapter 3 and said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. The first sentence we have recorded, and there's a principle in Bible study called, it's called hermeneutics. I don't know who made up that word about that long. But hermeneutics is the science of studying the Bible. There's a law called the first mention principle. The first time something is mentioned, or the first time a character appears, that's important. For instance, the first time somebody lied to the Holy Spirit, what happened to him? God killed him, right. Now, he didn't kill him every time after that, but he did the first time to get the message across. This is how I feel about it. The first time somebody broke the Sabbath and picked up sticks, what happened? They said, kill him, stone him to death, right? And they did. Now, I'm sure that didn't happen since, and it happens every day. You know, now people break the Sabbath all the time. But the first time it happened, God said, kill him. The first time somebody touched the ark that wasn't supposed to, Uzzah, what happened? God struck him dead. This is called the law of first mention.
You know what? I'm gonna broadly agree with Kent here that this is a literary device used in the Bible, and it seems pretty reasonable to me, because it is actually the case that subsequent events of this type are not as harshly punished, and there does seem to be this kind of idea that you make an example out of the first person to do a thing. So here you go. I'll drink to that, Kent. It's probably accurate to say that that's a literary device in the Bible. And yeah, it's really harsh, but I get the idea of making an example out of the first person. Like, yeah, it's probably accurate in broad sense what Kent is saying.
So here we have the first mention of something coming out of the serpent's mouth. What's the first thing he did? Question what God said. Try to raise doubts. And there's 3 D's here that makes a good acrostic if you want to preach on this. There's he raised doubts.
There's 3 D's, that's what she said. Oh.
Doubt, denial, and deification of man. That'll be on the quiz. 3 things.
That just upped the rating on this channel.
The three lies that Satan said, 3 statements that Satan made. First was a question. Yea, hath God said? He's raising doubts. By the way, many liberal churches today do the same thing. I'm convinced one of the purposes of all of the wild versions we have going on, people say, which Bible's right? Which one's right? Well, just the fact that there's 30 or 50 of them out there raises doubts of what did God say anyway. We can get into that controversy if you'd like. Take a long time, go off on that rabbit trail, but I stick with the King James for all sorts of reasons. And I think you might want to look at the website, avpublications.com, if you can get on the internet and see a comparison of all the different translations and see how many words they left out in some of the other ones. Just AV for authorized version.com and see Gail Riplinger's website. I talked to her just last week, and she's in Virginia, or West Virginia. But anyway, the first principle here of first mention is the first thing Satan said was a question. The question is designed to make Eve doubt.
Yeah.
The second thing he said to the woman, verse number 4, Genesis 3:4, ye shall not surely die. Now he's just flat denying what God said.
Okay, but here's the thing that I just want to point out. So, here Satan... Oh. Drink. So, what did God say? Do not drink... do not eat of the fruit of the tree of evil, for on the day that thou doest... Whatever, I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, even though I said I hate paraphrases, but I don't have it in front of me. Thou shalt surely die. So, it's on the day you will surely die. So here's the thing. If we're going to take the Bible literally, like Kent wants us to, who is actually telling the truth here? The serpent or God? We'll ask Bent. Did Eve die on the same day she ate the fruit? Oh, you seem to be muted on your end. Can't hear you.
No, she did not.
She did not. Okay. So... if we're going to take the Bible literally, I'm going to have to go ahead and say that God is the one who lied here. So, far from the serpent lying, it seems like it's God. So, either Kent is wrong about who's doing the lying here, or Kent is wrong about how to interpret the Bible. I will leave it as an exercise to the viewer to determine which of those it is. Although I will also point out, it could also just be both. Because I guess God and Satan... Well, I guess, actually, it's hard to say that Satan lied here unless... Whatever. It could be both Satan and Kent who lied. I'll just say that. I'm not sure if it could be both God and Satan who lied. I don't know, whatever. But yeah. Satan and Kent could both be liars in the circumstance. But here we go.
God said you'll die. He said, no, you won't. A lot of churches fit into this category.
But God didn't just say that you'll die. He said, on the day you eat thereof. That's the thing. This was like, oh, hey, if you eat of this tree, you'll have swallowed a big old cyanide pill, like Kent likes to do with his apricot seeds. And then you'll die. On that day. That's what the Bible said. But it's not what happened. And now I'm going to point out that's what the Bible said if you're going to take it literally. Now, if you want to take the word day figuratively, like maybe you could in earlier verses in Genesis, then hey, maybe that's not what it means. But if we're going to follow Kent Hovind's hermeneutic for the word day, then on that day means on that day, that 24-hour period, which, granted, in the Bible, is usually assumed from sunset to sunset rather than midnight to midnight or sunrise to sunrise, which have been other conventions. But still, that's not what happened, because even Kent accepts that Adam and Eve lived for quite a while after they ate the fruit and had multiple sons and daughters. I don't know if Kent knows this, but it takes considerably longer than a day to go from conception to birth. So
I think he does, but he might not.
I mean, he has had a few kids, but I don't know what his history with his wife was in the days leading up. Like, maybe he was continuing to engage in intercourse right up until delivery time. But then again, he would have known that his wife was pregnant before then, so he still had to have realized that something was going on. So
I'm not sure Kent's ever had intercourse. Those might not be his children.
okay, well, look, I think at least
He might not know it exists. He might just think.
I'd say Eric looks enough like Kent to say that it's Kent, or Eric at least is probably his kid.
I don't think he looks at all like Kent.
All right, well, maybe, sure. But I'm going to go ahead and say I think it's extremely likely that Kent knows for a fact that it takes longer to go from conception to birth than a day. But then, hey, you know what? Maybe it's a miracle. With miracles, you don't have to worry about explaining anything.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Just a miracle. Just accept it.
Yeah.
Some of them just question God's word. Well, we're not sure what it really means here, so we'll just, interpret it for you. Did God really say, homosexuality is bad? Well, we're not sure about that. Read the Bible, okay? I don't want to go off on this rabbit trail too far, but I think we got a lot of Christians out preaching against homosexuality.
Oh, we got death is an analogy of being cast out of paradise from Boole. Well, I mean, that's a fair interpretation, but it's not a literal interpretation like Kent Hovind wants us to go with. So I would actually say that that's a reasonable interpretation of that, right? Death is an analogy for being cast out of paradise. But if we go with Kent Hovind's hermeneutic, where we have to take things as literally as possible, except where they conflict with our scientific knowledge, because Kent Hovind doesn't think the Earth is flat or that there's a solid dome over it. But yeah, if we go with Kent Hovind's hermeneutic, if we want to be consistent with Kent Hovind internally, God's a liar. I actually don't think you have to interpret it that way. I am willing to say that even the authorial intent wasn't necessarily that. But according to Kent Hovind's own hermeneutic, that's a lie by God, not the serpent. But here we go.
And they should. But they're not preaching against lust, or adultery, or fornication, or letting adulterers into your living room on the TV.
What?
I mean, it's easy to preach against somebody else's sin. We better look and preach against our own also.
Okay, hold up. Does Kent Hovind think that sex scenes from Hollywood actually involve the actors involved having sex?
I think he's talking about, like, going to your local Blockbuster video and renting an adult film.
But that's usually fornicators, not adulterers.
And then, I don't know what Ken's thinking then.
Okay, well, I'll just say this. If you're watching a mainstream Hollywood movie, or even most things that aren't just straight up hardcore adult films, even in sex scenes, the actors involved are not actually having sex. I'm just gonna point that out. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
What?
It's true. They usually
Pretty
have...
sure they-
No, in fact, they usually have everything kind of taped down and covered up so that they don't, because they generally aren't actually willing to have actual intercourse with each other. Because usually... Well, maybe them, but usually you don't get a pair of method actors who are still both down for it. So, yeah. Even in sex scenes, they're usually not actually engaging in intercourse. So, yeah. There you go. We'll go back to... we'll take a drink for Godzilla. And then we'll go back to Kent after I've... Oh my goodness. Another one. But anyway, we'll go back to Kent after I've given you all sorts of information about Hollywood that apparently Kent doesn't know.
read Romans chapter 1 about homosexuality and how wicked and vile it is in Romans chapter 1. Then you go to chapter 2, verse 1, and it says, thou art inexcusable, because you judge another, you're guilty of the same thing. So we're real good about preaching about Romans 1. Well, you better read chapter 2, the first verse also, because we're just as guilty. D.L. Moody and Charles Spurgeon were great preachers of...
All right, I will actually point out that... So I do sort of appreciate that Kent Hovind is going with the... even if we go with the paradigm that homosexuality is evil and whatnot, that your average heterosexual person has done plenty of things that, according to a conservative biblical reading, are at least as bad, and so maybe it's not your place to talk. I think that's fair. And actually... interestingly enough, like if you read, say, The Inferno by Dante, he puts sexual sinners in sort of the top least bad layer of hell, where it's like, you know, whatever. It's sure it's a sin, and I guess if you're unrepentant, you can go to hell for it. But like, if that's your biggest sin, then you're not doing that bad. And that's actually an accurate portrayal of sort of the traditional Christian view of sin of a sexual nature, which is to say that, like, compared to like murder or stealing or most other things, it's really not that big a deal. And even if you were gay, chances are most not gay Christians have done things that are at least as bad. So you know what? I'll give a little bit of props, not a lot of props, but a little bit of props to Kent Hovind in acknowledging the historically low rank that Christians have given to sexual sins in terms of what sins are bad. I will, however, point out that the current American sort of evangelical right, I guess, is really weirdly obsessed with it in a very unusual, from a historical standpoint, sort of way. But whatever.
The past, and they were good friends. Well, Moody weighed 300 and some pounds, and Spurgeon smoked cigars. Moody said to Spurgeon one day, you ought to quit smoking those cigars. Don't you know that's a bad testimony? When are you going to quit anyway? Spurgeon poked Moody in the belly, said, when you get rid of that. They're both right.
Fair enough. I'll take a drink for that, yeah. Smitty, I would read your most recent comment, but I want to keep this monetized.
And they're both wrong, right? So, first thing he did was question God's word. The second thing he did was deny. So first is doubt, second is denial. And a lot of churches, liberal churches, will deny that God said anything. They don't believe there is a word of God.
I've never heard of a church other than sort of Unitarian Universalist that would ever say that. So I'm going to go ahead and say that's stupid enough to drink to. Because, yeah. Here we go.
My church that I went to, the Methodist Church, after I got saved, I went back and asked my preacher if he was saved. He said, what do you mean? I said, are you going to heaven? He said, I don't believe there is a heaven.
What? I don't believe you, Kent, but I'm not going to drink.
None of that sounds like it really happened.
Yeah, no.
None of those questions are questions that people would ask in that context.
Yeah, nor is it an answer that I would expect from any preacher, Methodist or otherwise.
Yeah, and they wouldn't answer that way either.
Yeah.
Not those people in that context.
No.
No.
Folks, you would be shocked at how many churches, how many pastors question God's word or deny God's word. They don't think there is any way to know what God said. Now, if we don't have God's word, how are we going to know right from wrong? Doesn't it make sense just from a logical perspective? If there's a designer, there's probably an owner's manual.
Ken, don't you think that you have the Holy Spirit guiding you right now? Like, don't you believe that?
Presumably
That would
he
be
does.
your answer. That would be your answer to how you would know between right and wrong.
Yeah.
You would feel it in your spirit from the Holy Spirit.
Or you could take the whole idea where, like, you pick a goal and a methodology to reach that goal for morality and avoid the Euthyphro dilemma entirely. You could do that too, Kent. That's an option. But, I mean, why bother having to think about morality when you could just take the most naive possible reading of the Bible? Because that's an option too.
Yeah, I guess.
Doesn't every complex machine come with some kind of owner's manual? What to do with it?
No, not really. I mean, I don't know. Not necessarily. It depends on what you mean by complex and owner's manual, whatever. I don't care.
Doesn't mean people read it. I get a computer program, it's got all these books, I don't read it. I just tell Brian, explain it to me, would you please? Okay. Explain to me how this works. And I think we'd be wise to look at this logically and say, okay, there must be a designer. Everything in the universe is design, and there's probably an owner's manual. And I happen to believe, after studying for 31 years, that this is it right here. I believe God has given us His Word. So first he doubted God's Word, then he denied it. The third thing he said was, God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. This verse deserves study for a long time. There is so much packed into this verse right here. Let's all stand up, turn around twice again, and sit down. It's been a half hour. When did we get the whole Bible in English? That's a good question. I don't remember the answer to it. I took a course in Bible college called Systematic Theology, where you go into all that stuff. Why do we have these 66 books? Why not the other books? How do we know which book should be in the Bible? And that's an entire study called theology. I don't remember the answer to the question of when we got it finished with the 66 books that we have.
Kent, the reason you don't know when that is because that didn't happen until after the Protestant Reformation. The paring down of the Septuagint into basically the 66, or the New Testament plus the parts of the Septuagint that weren't available at the time in the original Hebrew, because subsequently we found at least partial manuscripts of some of the books in the Septuagint that weren't available in the Tanakh in Hebrew. Yeah, thanks, Dead Sea Scrolls. Yeah, that didn't happen until after the Protestant Reformation, when publishers of Bibles noticed that people weren't reading so much the quote-unquote deuterocanonical books, and so they decided to save money by not printing them. That's when that happened, Kent. But you don't want people to know that, because you would prefer that the church have always used the 66-book canon, because you have a fictionalized, romanticized version of Baptist history, where there was always a remnant of Baptists all the way through the times from basically the 1st century down to the establishment of the Imperial Church, through the 1066 Great Schism, and then all the way into post-Protestant Reformation. You want to think there was a remnant of Christians who were always using your 66-book canon, but that's never been the case. That was never true. There's never been any actual evidence for such a remnant. You just like to maintain it as a fiction. And also, for $5 from Vandalia 1998, we have, but if the Bible is the owner's manual, shouldn't there be a different one for each person? Like, is a different owner's manual for each machine? Yeah, I mean, you would think so, since each person is actually a different person, and they aren't actually the same. They don't even have the same genetics. Well, I guess maybe unless you're twins, but still. At least there should be one owner's manual per genome, at the very least.
No, twins get different mutations pretty early on.
All right, how about this? One owner's manual per phenotype.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, but that's not what happens. But yeah, Kent making stuff up. Well, to be fair, Kent isn't making it up. This is a thing that's been around for Baptists. So Baptists are this weird group of Christians, and it's not entirely clear where they actually originate, but they have a number of historical myths that are completely unsubstantiated as to where they think they originated. And Kent subscribes to the remnant theory, where there was always this remnant of essentially proto-Baptists who were holding on to the 66-book Bible and Kent Hovind's Young Earth interpretation of the Bible, and they were always being suppressed by the Imperial Church, which they identify as the Catholic Church, even when that was not accurate. And they finally felt free to emerge in the aftermath of the start of the Protestant Reformation, because now there was additional religious freedom in Europe, even though really there wasn't. There was just different kinds of religious oppression in different parts of Europe, but whatever. Yeah, it's complete nonsense, and it's ahistorical, and you ask any historian of Christian history, and they will say no. The remnant idea from Baptist theology has absolutely zero evidence. It's complete nonsense. We'll keep going with some more Kent.
In order to determine which books went into the Bible, there was a series of tests that they had. If Jesus used it, then that was good enough for the Old Testament. So that was settled. So which version of the Bible, of the ones available in that time, did Jesus use and refer to and say, this is the Word of God? So that said, the Old Testament...
I don't know, but I will say this. When the New Testament quotes the Old Testament, it is almost universally quoting the Septuagint, which is as far as we can tell, the earliest Greek translation of Hebrew or Jewish, I guess by that time it was Jewish, of Jewish holy texts. And it includes more than is what in Kent's Bible. So the Septuagint gets its name from the word 70 in Greek, and the legend is that 70 scholars took 70 days to translate the entirety of the Hebrew Scriptures, and when they were finished, they found out that all of their translations were exactly identical. I personally press X to doubt on that particular legend, as do most scholars. However, the Septuagint became sort of the standard Greek version of the Jewish holy texts that was used throughout the empire by Jewish people whose first language was Greek, which was a lot of them, actually. They were called Hellenized Jews. Hellenized because that means sort of Greekified, if you will. They were heavily influenced by the Greco-Roman culture, and their first language was primarily Greek, which was the lingua franca of the Roman Empire at the time. And so, while they may have learned to pronounce Hebrew in various rabbinical schools and whatnot, so they could go through like ceremonies like the Bar Mitzvah, where they had to read from the Torah in Hebrew, that was primarily memorized, and they were not fluent Hebrew speakers. They could muddle through a pronunciation in Hebrew of a pre-memorized text, but they didn't really speak Hebrew. In fact, no one really spoke Hebrew by that time. Even most of the Jews, their first language was Aramaic. Hebrew was something... Oh, drink for Godzilla. Hebrew was something that was only really learned by scholars at the time in Judea. And for most Jews around the empire, Greek was the language that they knew. And that was the language in which they learned their religious texts. And the religious text they studied was the Septuagint. And like I've said, it is by far the dominant form of the Old Testament used for quotations in the New Testament, of which there are many. The New Testament quotes the Old Testament a lot, and it almost always does it word for word in the Septuagint. And there you go. Now you guys know a little bit more about the relationship between the Old Testament, New Testament, and the Septuagint. I will also point out the Septuagint remains the sort of official version of the New Testament for the Eastern Catholic and Eastern Orthodox and Oriental Orthodox churches. So take that for what you will.
The New Testament was not too difficult to settle. The New Testament, I'll tell you who would know the answer to that is that website, avpublications.com. They could tell you the date when we got it and all that kind of stuff. And the different manuscripts, the families of manuscripts, the Alexandrian and the Byzantine and the Textus Receptus and all that.
Oh, that actually is an interesting point. So, the different manuscript families. Interestingly enough, the techniques that we use to determine which manuscript families exist and which hypothetical ancestor texts exist that unite these families are essentially the same as phylogenetic techniques. You look at conserved quote-unquote mutations in the sense of like clerical errors or scribal errors, if you will. And so the reason that we know that there are these textual families, they're Byzantine and Alexandrian, and those are the two big branches, but then they have sub-branches within them that descend from a common ancestor text with inherited modification. Yeah, those are the same techniques that we use to determine phylogeny and evolution. So if Kent wants to accept that there are different manuscript families in the Bible, then he's going to have to go ahead and explain why that doesn't work in genetics for common ancestry. Because the way that we know that, say, Homo sapiens are related to genus Pan is the same way we know that all Alexandrian codices, or manuscripts to be more accurate, have a common ancestor. And that's the way that we can reconstruct common ancestor texts. And that's why we know what the most likely original reading is in most cases in the biblical texts. Just wanted to throw that out there real quick.
It's an amazing study. Let's look at this verse for a minute. God doth know. What he's saying here, what he's subtly saying is, Eve, God's holding something back from you. God knows.
I mean, it's literally true. It's the knowledge of good and evil. God doesn't want you to have it. I mean, Satan isn't lying there, even in a very literal or even in a very broad sense. Oh, drink from Mothra. Like, I don't know why you would dispute that God's holding something back. You can argue as whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but he's obviously holding something back. But whatever.
He doesn't want you to know. That's the implied message here. God knows in the day you eat of this, your eyes are going to be opened. In other words, they're not open now, which means basically you're dumb. I'm smart. You're dumb. This is the exact same attitude you get every debate I've ever done against an evolutionist. That attitude comes across very clearly. And I guess I'm getting old and crotchety, but I don't.
Well, the reason is because, Kent, that you say so many dumb things. It's hard to avoid having a sense of superiority over Kent Hovind. Because it takes so little research to feel like you're smarter than Kent Hovind. But whatever.
Tolerate it at all. I was in a debate last week in El Paso, Texas, and the guy got up and he said, now folks, evolution is a complex subject and, probably, most of you can't understand it.
Okay, press X to doubt that ever happened. My guess is he said most of you, if this entire exchange ever happened, I would say maybe he said, you guys don't understand it. Not because you're too, and I'm going to add a little caveat. I don't think he meant because they're too dumb. I think he meant because they haven't studied it, which most people haven't. Like, look, there's nothing wrong with not knowing a lot about evolutionary biology, right? Most people don't. In fact, I was talking to a friend of mine earlier today to try, as sort of a, I was using my friend as sort of a proxy for, like, John Q. Public. Just what do people know about the subject? And I was talking about dinosaur paleontology. Like, how long was the Mesozoic? What ended it? How many dinosaur fossils would have been the result of the Chicxulub impact that caused the end of the Mesozoic? And as it turns out, the level of knowledge is not very high. So yeah, most people don't know that much about evolutionary biology. And you know what? That's okay. You don't have to. What's not okay is for you to have a vociferous opinion on it without knowing much about it. Which I'll point out is true in general. If you don't know what the heck you're talking about, stop having a loud opinion. Just shut up and let the people who do know what they're talking about talk about it. And I find this is most often the case in a few areas. One of them is in fact evolutionary biology. And interestingly enough, another one of them is history. And another one of them is economics. Stop having loud opinions on those unless you know what you're talking about. So, here we go.
I said, folks, let me translate what he just said. What he just said is, you're stupid, I'm smart. Isn't that what he meant?
Maybe.
You can read the letters to the editor that they write. Or the nasty websites that are out. There's about 137 websites now that are just anti-Hovind.
Wait, okay, I don't know if this is an anti-Hovind website. Which actually reminds me, the last time I was in the chat for a Standing for Truth live stream, it's a while ago, someone kept saying, hey, why are you hanging around Kent Hovind's channel? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I almost never watch Kent Hovind's channel because almost all of it is completely boring. And he was like, no. And eventually it came out that he was talking about this show. He was like, apparently doing Kent with Bent is the same thing as hanging around Kent Hovind's channel, even though almost none of these videos have come from his channel. And I don't comment on Kent's channel. I don't hang out in his live streams. I barely watch any of his new videos. I don't know. But yeah, it's a weird thing. But in case you're watching chatter, whose name I don't remember, I do this because it's fun. It's fun to point and laugh at how stupid Kent Hovind is. But that being said, we are at we've been streaming for an hour and 56. So it is time to do some wrap up stuff. So I'm going to do some, actually, you know what? Go ahead, Bent. You do anything that you need to for your announcements, and I'm going to do some channel news and wrap it up here.
Copper Magma, new music coming soon.
There you go.
Don't know when, but it'll be free. Oh, there's
Soon,
news.
TM.
We might be doing a show in November or December with a band coming from Colorado. Their plan is they're going to get a generator and just go out in the middle of the desert somewhere.
Okay. Which desert would that be?
Somewhere in the Arizona desert of Arizona.
That's a lot of area, but good to know.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
All right.
But I just heard about that this morning, so that's the latest.
So I have been asked, will there be a Top Hats Off stream today? I think so, probably, yeah. I might as well. I'm not sure what I'll play, but yeah, hop over to Top Hats Off if you want to continue this discussion, having a hangout with me. Actually, I recently streamed Top Hats Off for like something like 20-ish minutes doing a Blender tutorial. So yeah, Top Hats Off is a place I do literature readings, gaming streams, Blender tutorials, just whatever. If you want to see me doing videos that don't belong on this channel, that's where you go. The link is on my channel page. It's also in most of my end screens, whatever. Let's see. As far as channel news, right now my plan is on Thursday to upload part 2 of my discussion with Erica and Kane Wilson about human evolution and human human ancestors and sort of associated groups paleontology. Then actually Saturday I'm probably just going to upload part 3. So the next 2 things that happen on the channel are probably going to be the next part and the final part of that talk. Mostly because I don't want there to be too much time gap between those, because I feel like the conversation really just flows from one into the next, and I don't want people to have to try to like remember what came before too hard in order to enjoy that if they're watching them as premieres. So those will be 2 premieres. Then the next Tuesday will be the first Tuesday of the month, which is not an Eric with Erica. That should be another Kent with Bent, assuming nothing goes wrong. Then the Thursday after that should be the next Creationism is a Mega Catastrophe video, which is also the last Creationism is a Mega Catastrophe video. So if you want to watch that early, feel free to join the channel or become a patron, because the link to that video has already been put up on the patrons/members only Discord channel, as well as it has been put up as a Patreon post. So if you want to gain access to that early, there you go. That's how you do it. Either become a channel member and join the server, which if you, as a member, you can't do automatically. Send me an email or a Discord message or something like that, or a message on Twitter. Let me know, I'll send you the link. If you join on Patreon, it's automatic, so there you go. Let's see. What else is there? I have already started working on a video. I'm going to be doing a parody video. It's going to be a creationist parody video. I have a new voice actor who is allegedly recording audio today for that. So that should be fun. Hopefully you guys get a kick out of it. It's just a parody of some creationist stuff. It'll be pretty obvious what it's a parody of when it comes out. I don't want to give too many spoilers. I also have already picked out another video to respond to. It might be worse than the video that I already called the worst creationist video ever, which Bent was there for, as was Cheshire Vic.
Yeah. That
was pretty bad, but I may have found an even worse one. And hey, doggo. Other than that, I don't think I have anything. So let's see. We'll drink to the dog, and we'll also drink to Boole with 2 different drinks. There's one. There's the other from me. Anyway, I hope you guys have had fun. I've had fun. Come check me out on Top Hats Off. I'll set up a stream in the next few minutes. And yeah, we'll have fun over there. Thanks for watching, but before you go, I'd like to take a minute to say thank you to my patrons and channel members on YouTube. They help me make this channel possible, and without them, I couldn't keep going. Specifically, I want to thank my $20 and above patrons, Ben Hovind, Ian Chen, Sphincter of Doom, Chris Love, Henry Hutanen, and Bob Knob. If you'd like to join the channel or become a patron, links are in the description, and if that's not right for you, but you want some other way to help out, there's also an Amazon wishlist, as well as a Teespring store where you can get Dapper Dino merchandise. If none of that works for you, just liking and sharing this video really helps out. I'm the Dapper